If you're a fan of pork, you might want to close this video because things are about to get a little bit nasty. There's upcoming changes to regulations inside of some of the big factories that are managing pork production and safety. And so in traditional plants, up until now, as many as 7 federal inspectors work on the processing line, handling hog carcasses and checking for defects. Under the new system, that number will be reduced to 2 or 3 federal inspectors who have more experience, but who will have limited hands-on interaction with the carcasses. So you might wonder, well, then who is gonna be having that hands-on experience? That's the plant's own employees who will be checking and sorting hog carcasses and letting the federal inspectors, called consumer safety inspectors, check their work from a distance. There's no required federal training for those employees. So there's gonna be far fewer inspectors, and they are going to explicitly be away from the actual inspection, which the own plant's employees will be doing. So I'm sure the plants will be very rigorous in that, training it up, making sure there's incentives to catch every problem.
So before we get into more of what will be in your pork now, well, I'll just get to some of it. Feces, sex organs, toenails, bladders, and unwanted hair as opposed to wanted hair.
That will stay in.
Yes. So now, what I want to explain though is what the current standard is to give you a sense of how disastrous the new standard is. Because the current standard is not that comforting. So the speed limit at a processing plant, and the inspectors are supposed to do this at this rate. Right now, the good standard is 1,106 hog carcasses per hour. So the inspector is supposed to somehow see 1,100 carcasses go by him in an hour and inspect them to make sure they're okay. Like, oh, I think they're fine, I think they're fine. Reminds me of the I Love Lucy skit.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah, that's fine, it's fine, right? And so that's the current standard, that's a good standard, okay? This one says, no, much faster, plus you don't work for the government, you work for the company, and you're in the distance. Well, I mean, first of all, if you're at a distance, how are you even seeing it? So it's already over, there's no inspections, okay? Number 2, what do you think that the plant owner is gonna do? Hey, now look, the inspector here, I'm paying you, but I want you to slow down the plant every once in a while, and I want you to point out all the things we're doing wrong and cost us a lot of money. And I'm gonna pay you good money for you to cost us money. Do you think that's how it's gonna go? There's no one on earth that thinks that's how it's gonna go. Their job is to maximize profit. That plant will keep on rolling. There is no such thing as inspections anymore. Yeah. So God knows what's gonna be in our food, specifically in our pork. So, I guess maybe this is the worst form of pork barrel politics, if you will. I'm here all week. But no, just when you thought Trump couldn't screw anything up more, now you've got pork feces and toenails and sex organs in all of your pork products awaiting you, because we're literally not inspecting the food anymore.
I mean, industrial capitalism, which is exactly what the food industry is in the United States, it operates on the logic of scale and sort of profit, obviously, as you said, but profit through scale, right? So because a lot of this, this is specific to pork, but we can look at it more generally as part of the food industrial complex in this country. And it's just astonishing that the regulators for this will work for the plant rather than the government. I just think it's important to point out that a lot of people say, oh, the government shouldn't be in our business, blah blah blah. But in this, it's really important to understand what the government is. In this kind of scenario, is like our lawyer, is like the entity that protects people from these kinds of practices that have gone off the rails here in this country, and actually have gone off the rails long before Trump as well. Yeah. So the other just point I want to make, which is really sad for me, it's something that I think about a lot, is you can't afford to eat healthy unless you can afford it. You know what I mean? Like you can't afford to eat organic pork, if you will, the only way to avoid this, right? Unless you're super rich. So what it means is yet again and again and again across the board, poor working and middle class people are being screwed in this country.
Yeah. The government and the wealthy donors that have put Trump into power, they don't think that your kids are eating enough poop. Honestly, I mean, that's really as complicated as it is. Or at the least, it doesn't bother them enough that your kids are gonna eat more poop, as long as it allows these companies to make a little bit more money. I mean, every day on this show, some story comes up where if the Democrats knew at all what they were doing, it would be everywhere. It would be hashtag Trump's poop pork all over the place because he thinks your kids should be eating more poop. I mean, who doesn't like eating pork. I understand, they seem like great creatures, we should really stop eating them. But a lot of Americans do. Nobody thinks there's not enough pig testicles in their sausage. Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks this could use a bit more texture. How about we get some toenails in there? This should be hung around his head, not only because it's disgusting and visceral and everybody cares about what's in their food, obviously, but it's clearly just being done to advantage the owners of literally like a handful of pork producing companies.
Yeah, so to Ramesh's point, look, corporations can represent themselves. They have an army of lawyers and their job is to maximize profit.
And they bought out our government.
And they've also bought all of our politicians, and hence this. I mean, why is does Trump actually want pork feces in the thing? Who knows, he's a weirdo, maybe he does. But probably the reality is he doesn't care at all. What he cares about is the check he got. So this industry gave him and the Republican Party money. So they're like, yeah, sure, what do we care? The check cleared, go ahead, put it in everybody's food. But the government is supposed to be our advocate. The government's supposed to look out for the citizens. That's the whole point of the job of the government in a democracy. But we've lost that because the donors have captured almost our entire government. Okay, so last thing on this is 2 federal inspectors talked to reporters and they had some amazing things to say about this. They said the consumer's being duped. They believe that it actually is getting federally inspected when there's no one there to even watch or do anything about anything, okay? And in fact, they went on to say they won't even eat the meat processed by their own employers anymore because they have no idea what's going to be in there, and neither does anyone else.
Yeah, one of them also said, it's so hard to go to work without feeling physically sick watching this just happen, unfolding in front of you, especially since you took the oath to protect the American people. My final comment, it's not like they were being regulated well before. This is worse, but the current situation was already almost exactly what those companies wanted. The quality of most foods is already not up to the level that it should be. There are foods that in Europe, they won't take our food, some of our meat, because of how much we allow to get into it. That was before these changes. We should be moving in the right direction. Instead, we're going back to the jungle. That's what it is.
I mean, food doesn't have to inherently be as expensive as it is. It's a product of a sociopathic and toxic system. And I was watching your guys' coverage last night. JR made such a great point where he was talking about how the wine cave actually is the mechanism that contributes to 3 people having equivalent wealth with 50% of the population, right? So look at this food thing. Look what gets sacrificed on the path to that, right? Yeah. All of our health, all of our bodies. So this is why we can't have a blah blah blah. We can't have anything, right? Yeah. We have to inherently transform the system.
I was in Taiwan recently, and they have signs in all the restaurants: no American meat. The rest of the world thinks we're barbaric, and we don't test any of our food, and our corporations have run amok, and they think our products are, and especially food, is dangerous. So they proudly advertise, don't worry guys, you're not gonna get sick. There's no American meat here. Yeah. That's the sorry state of America. They've turned it into a third world country through this sickening corruption. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.